Hi, church. So I have a friend who preaches in Nashville, and he will tell you straight up that he is not the most mechanically inclined person. Building things, using tools, projects around the house, those are just not in his gift set. But one year, he and his wife bought for their little boy one of those battery-operated Jeeps. Now, this is one of those Jeeps that you can actually get in, and it has a little gas pedal, and you can hit it and actually drive it around. And the box said, "Some assembly required." So one evening, his wife went out with some of her friends, kind of a girls' night, and he was at home by himself. His little boy was already in bed, and he was just watching a game on TV, and he thought, I've got a few hours to spare. I ought to put that Jeep together and impress my wife with my handy skills. So he pulled the box out, he ripped the box open, he pulled out all the pieces, and some assembly required was being very kind. There was a lot of assembly that was required. So he started working on it and spent a couple of hours working on this Jeep, putting it together. He was so proud of himself. He waited for his wife to come home. He saw her pull into the driveway, and he set the Jeep out in a very visible place so that when she walked in the door, she would see it. And he sat back in his recliner, beaming with pride over his accomplishment. So his wife walks in, and she looks at the Jeep. And the first words out of her mouth, "The stickers are on upside down." And it was like a punch to the gut, right? We've all been in those situations where you're feeling good about yourself, your ego's really inflated, and someone just says or done something that just kind of just punches you in the gut. And for him, it was in that moment. After 3 hours of putting this Jeep together, the first thing that he hears is, "You put the stickers on upside down." Some assembly required. So I preached a series not too long ago called Church Outside the Box, and the whole point of that series was to get us to see that that we can still be church even whenever we are not gathering together, right? That the crux of Christianity is not what we do in a building for 2 hours on a Sunday morning, and I wanted us to see that really, the whole idea was that we should be church, not just go to church, right? And so the box, church outside the box is the building, and so that whole idea, and I'm still deeply committed to that idea that we can be church without the box. We can be church without that 2 hours on Sunday mornings. That doesn't define our Christianity. But I don't want anyone to walk away from that series thinking that I don't think that gathering together is important. Because I do. I think it's important. Some assembly is required. I think it's really important. Now, let me give you a little disclaimer here. I don't mean that some assembly is required in some dogmatic way. I don't mean that as though it's talking about perfect church attendance and that God's going to zap you if you miss church. I don't mean it in that way. I just mean that some assembly is important. It's important that we get together. It's probably more than just important. It's vital to our spiritual health. It's vital to our nurturing as disciples. It's vital to our walk of faith that we get together with other brothers and sisters in Christ, that we worship together, that we fellowship with one another. And in that sense, some assembly is required. And I think this is what the Hebrew writer is getting at when he says this in Hebrews 10. He says, "And let us consider how to provoke or motivate or encourage or spur. Let us consider how to provoke one another toward love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." You see, the Hebrew writer believes that Christians need to be gathering together. right? That it's good and it's healthy for us to be together, that it's good and healthy for us to gather together. And he seems to imply, at least from this text that we looked at in Hebrews 10, he seems to imply that it is in our gathering together that we encourage one another toward love and good deeds. That one of the primary purposes for us to get together is so that we can encourage one another. So I've been teaching a class on Wednesday nights on the back patio of our church building, and most recently we were going through a very short series that I was calling Healthy Togetherness, and it was about the idea of what does look like to have healthy group dynamics. What are some things that we can do? What are some practices that we can participate in that would help our group dynamic be more healthy? And so one of those kind of group spiritual disciplines is encouragement, right? That we can be intentional about encouraging one another. And encouragement is this act of building someone up and pushing them towards something, right? Building them up and pushing them towards something that is good, pushing them towards something that is better, pushing them towards something that is holy and righteous and healthy. And that's actually what the Hebrew writer is saying here, right? He says, let us consider how we can motivate or encourage or spur one another on toward, right? Did you see that? He says toward something. Well, towards what? Well, the Hebrew writer says that we are to encourage one another. We're to motivate or spur one another on toward greater love and good deeds. This, at least for the writer of Hebrews, this is one of the main reasons some assembly is required. We need to be together so that we can push one another towards something that is good. We need to be together so that we can encourage one another toward things that are holy and toward things that are loving and grace-filled. We need to be together so that we can spur one another on toward good deeds. When we are not together, when you do not gather with other brothers and sisters in Christ, who is motivating you toward greater love? When you are not making it a priority to be with other brothers and sisters in Christ in worship and in fellowship, whether that be the large corporate worship gathering, or that be in small groups or a Bible class, or any type of setting like that where you're with other brothers and sisters in Christ, other faith family members, when you are not making that a priority in your life, then who's motivating you toward greater love and good deeds? And then the flip side of that is true as well. When you're not making that a priority, then who are you motivating toward or spurring toward love and good deeds? This is what happens, or at least this is what should be happening whenever we gather together for worship and fellowship. We should be intentional. That's a key word here, because it doesn't just happen naturally. It doesn't just happen organically. We have to be intentional about this. We should be intentional when we gather together. We should be intentional about motivating each other toward greater love and good deeds. According to the Hebrew writer, there were some people in the church that he's writing to that were neglecting this. They were not making this a priority. And this bothered the writer of Hebrews, not because of some perfect church attendance rule, but it bothered the writer of Hebrews because in neglecting to gather together with other Christians, they were neglecting their calling to encourage and motivate their fellow brothers and sisters toward greater love and good deeds. And it bothered him, because this is what we should be about. Okay, so by now, hopefully you have already heard the news about our Church on the Lawn service. We are really excited about this. This is going to be an outdoor Sunday morning worship gathering. That's going to be on the front of our property out by the street. And it's going to be one service that starts at 10 a.m. And that one service is going to be a blended service of both our instrumental and a cappella worship. And the reason we're intentional about that, because we want the community to see that even though we may express our worship in different ways, that we can come together in oneness and in love and compromise those preferences that we have for worship, right? And so this is one of the reasons we're excited about doing this out on the front lawn, is that we wanted this to be about outreach, right? We could have done it in the back of the property and nobody could have seen us, but we wanted it to be visible. We want it to be seen by those driving up and down the street, and we want it to be seen by those who live in the apartment complexes across the street. We want them to see us gather together to worship, so maybe it would pique their curiosity, and maybe they'll want to come over and worship with us. And we're going to have food trucks, and that's going to be another thing that we're hoping will attract people to come spend time with us. And we want this to be very visitor friendly and with an eye toward the outsider. And so it's one of the main reasons we decided, let's do this as one blended service so that the community can see us gather together despite our differences, despite the different ways that we express ourselves in worship, and show that we can come together in a blended service and do this. And so it's going to be for a short season. We are working our way toward getting back in the building. We just don't know when that's going to happen. And so we're going to do this as long as the weather will allow and as long as COVID numbers start to decrease. And we're really excited about it. Now, for some of you, you're not ready for that yet. For some of you, you're not comfortable getting outside of your own home yet. Being in large crowds, whether that's outdoor or indoors, and we're totally okay with that. We've been saying that from the very beginning. Go at your own pace. Do what you feel comfortable and safe doing. And so we don't want anyone to feel pressure to come if they're not ready to come yet. We're going to keep our online worship service because we want to be able to have that presence there. But for those who are ready to come and do this, I hope that you are as excited as we are as a leadership about this opportunity, because it's going to be a cool opportunity to one, be able to gather together finally and worship together, but also to be a witness to the community of what love looks like when we come together in the midst of our differences and worship as one body. And so we're really excited about that. Again, we're calling it Church on the Lawn. Next week, September 13th at 10 a.m. And here, okay, tying all that into my sermon, here's the deal. For those of you that are coming, when you come, don't come just so that you can check off that church attendance box that you haven't been able to check off all summer long since March because of COVID. And don't just come so that you can go through some acts of worship and feel like you've done church. Come so that you can be intentional about motivating another brother or sister in Christ toward greater love and good deeds. Come with this mindset that you are going to spur someone on toward greater love and good deeds. And if we can all come together with that mindset, man, then this service is going to be amazing, because we're all going to be doing what we can to make sure that we are pushing one another toward greater love and good deeds. And for that, some assembly is required.